Hi, everybody. Welcome to Why Eagles Why. It is our weekly look at the Philadelphia Eagles. You know how we do the show. Dave Bontempo, Bill Gelman, and Pete Amano with you. We do 4 quarters plus overtime. Please hit like and subscribe to be notified about future videos. Now, during this special time with the run of the Phillies, we've done some space sharing because Eagles players go to the Phillies game. They know the players. We're involved with it too. So when we do our first quarter, we're putting the Phillies into Why Eagles Why. All right. First quarter of Why Eagles Why. What did you guys do during the bye week? Eagles didn't play. Philly fans said, that's okay. We have enough to do. Pete, what was your bye weekend like?
I basically just paid attention to the Phillies. I didn't watch too much football. I mean, I watched Red Zone here and there, but it seems like every time the Phillies were on, I couldn't turn it off. I mean, it was just they're such an exciting team to watch. So yeah, I was all Phillies in my bye week. I did some stuff on social media with the Eagles, and we did a couple bye week articles and stuff at eagles.com. But as far as like my watching entertainment, it was all Phillies.
How about you, Bill? What was the weekend like?
I watched a little bit of the NFC games. I saw a little bit of the Dallas game, some of the Giants game. I still can't believe the Giants have only one loss. But with Sunday's game in particular, I did the old Gelman where it's I was in the car going places when Rhys Hoskins hit his home run, and when in the 8th inning when Bryce Harper was up, I had to be somewhere at 6 o'clock for dinner. So I'm like driving to the restaurant, and my wife actually called that Bryce Harper. She said something like, "Come on, Bryce, this is where you step up and earn that $30 million." And sure enough, he hit the home run. I started honking my horn. My wife thought I was going to get into an accident. Just added the excitement. And I stayed in the car until the game was over. Just because I am superstitious that way. I'm like,
yes,
we got the momentum back, and you can't change locations when that stuff's going on. And then I still been watching post-game highlights today.
Well, that's really true about the superstition. People laugh at you and say, what, do you think you impact the game? Yes, we do. We don't change positions. If you're sitting in a chair and somebody goes deep, you stay in that chair until you feel that you can't help them anymore. I was at a weekend event, and it was Sunday, and the discussion was the rain on Game 5, and the discussion of, is it better to rain it out so that you don't waste a good starting pitcher that you may want to have? Do you rather want to take a shot at another day? And then everybody kind of weighed in on it. And one guy had been at the Saturday game talking about the atmosphere that was out of this world. And he couldn't, he was so ecstatic describing it. Now, we'll narrow it down though. But now, Bill, that's great. Your wife stepped up. Pete, did you think he was going to do it in the 8th inning?
Right before that, because I'm watching the game and I have my 2 kids there and my wife, and before the inning started, I said, if JT gets on, I was talking to my son, he's 3 years old, so he's really not care. But I was like, if JT gets on, Bryce is going to hit the game-winning home run, and we're going to the World Series. I said that. Obviously, I didn't 100% think it was going to happen. I hoped it was going to happen, and knowing who's up at the time, every big moment he just welcomes. I mean, I'm saying he's a superhero, man. Like, you cannot wish anything any more from an athlete than what he's done in his postseason. And when it happened, I'm sitting there looking at my wife, and I just start laughing. I'm like, this is unbelievable. This guy comes up big time after time after time. And it's like, you could tell he was surprised. He was walking, he ran around the bases very, not like the crazy, like when he usually gets pumped up and cheers. He was going on bases. He went to the dugout, and you can read his lips. And he said, I can't believe I just did that. Like, it was a big moment. And I think that moment's going to be replayed over and over and over and over again for the rest of our lives. I mean, no matter what happens in the World Series.
It seems like when it's your time, when it's a time for your team, or for them to win it, crazy things just seem to happen. You can't believe that that they can rally, or they can be down 4 runs against the Padres in the 4th game, and then make up 3 of it in 1 inning. I guess, Bill, when it's your year, things are going to happen like this.
Yeah, and there's just something special about this team. I mean, not everyone has contributed during the postseason, but they just seem to be a connection. I don't get the anthem they picked out. That's my only complaint about this year's team. But they don't seem to feel the pressure. I mean, they just, if they fall down, other Phillies teams, you're like, oh, the game's over. This year's team, as soon as the playoffs started, they just turned it on. It was almost like they were saving their best for the postseason. I mean, granted, they're about to face their toughest test yet. So we'll see if this carries another 4 wins. But I like what Topper does in the clubhouse right before he gets showered with champagne. Mm-hmm. With the 4 more wins.
He's like, how many we got, JT? And he's like, 4 more, Topper. And they go nuts. You're going nuts. It's great.
Well, you cannot tell a team that has won 3 playoff rounds that they're an underdog. So they're going to be playing as if they expect this year of destiny. Now, for me, as they start the World Series against Houston, it brings back memories. Some, like, what is your favorite? For me, 1980, the night they beat the Royals and capture the championship. It's 2 hours before the game. See Pete Rose at first base taking ground balls. His son is standing right next to him, and I don't know how old his son was at that time. Then the game progresses. The crowd will not let them lose that game. And that was also the game that when the ball pops out of Bob Boone's glove and Pete Rose catches it in a big situation. So there was magic that night that I'll never forget. Now, how about you guys? I know your memories might be a little bit later, but what would be to you some of your favorite Phillies World Series memories? Pete, we'll start with you on this one.
For me, it was probably, it's going to be a lot of people's, when the Chase Utley faked the first, throw to home. That was just pretty epic of a postseason thing to happen, especially who it happened to. We all know he was just a smart baseball player, always thinking 10 steps ahead of everybody else. He faked out the cameras. He faked out the announcers. He faked out the people watching. Nobody knew why, you don't know what's happening until he happens. Here, he knew in his head that if he gets a ground ball, he's going home no matter what, if he sees a guy breaking. So that kind of, that was a big moment in the postseason. I mean, I think that kind of, in my mind, made me feel like this team's going to win it all.
How about you, Bill?
I don't know if I have a specific moment I remember. I just, for me, it's more about being part of the ambiance. I still have nightmares about 1993. Yeah, but it's just with 2008, just being able to see the World Series from 2 different perspectives. Being in the Circus 10 in Tampa Bay I think it was game 2, but I'm not sure what game it was. Actually, it might have been game 1. One of the games in Tampa Bay. I'm not going to try and figure out which one it was. And then just being at Citizens Bank Park for the World Series parade and seeing Jamie Moore, a local guy from Pennsylvania, playing for his hometown team, winning that World Series ring. And, of course, I can't forget about Chase Utley's speech during the post-parade celebration at the bank.
Great memories all around. And so that's been rekindled again as the Phillies making a lot of people happy with this postseason run, including many Phillies players, Eagles players jumping aside for the bye week. So there will be Phillies to watch this weekend, but there's also the Eagles playing the Steelers. And we'll look at that in the second quarter. Second quarter of Why Eagles Why. The 6-0 Eagles coming off a bye, and they play the Steelers. Bill, as you look at this team and you project, what are your thoughts on the Eagles?
I think the NFL is sending them a order of cupcakes over the next several weeks here, because the Steelers, even with their great tradition and history and Super Bowls, they're in a clear rebuilding mode right now. They're 2-5 right now. They look like a team that's lost. They've scored offensively 107 total points, which is less than the Eagles have scored in the second quarter for this season. And you have a Jersey kid, Kenny Pickett, who's taken over as starting quarterback. He's clearly learning the ropes. I mean, he's 2 touchdowns, 7 interceptions so far. So the Eagles defense should have a field day. And then as far as the cupcakes go, I mean, the Eagles are not facing teams with a winning record. I mean, I think over the next several weeks, Tennessee 4-2 is the only team that's above 500. You have the Texans on Thursday night, part of Houston week, which we can get into if you guys want. They're 1-4-1. So they start off week, what would that be? Week 9?
2 weeks from now. That's the Thursday night game in early November. That's the game after the Steelers.
Yeah, after this one. So it's a short week. Yeah, you have Indy coming up. They're 3-1. Green Bay, that team's just lost. They're 3-4. So where's the competition coming from? At the same time, the Eagles can't look at this cupcake schedule and look past any of these teams. You got to keep doing what you're doing. That got you to 6-0, and just because they legitimately, I don't see any team in the NFC beating them out for the number 1 seed right now. They just seem to be so much more talented than we were talking about Tampa Bay and Green Bay as being serious threats. LA does not look like a team that won a Super Bowl last year. So it'll be interesting to see how this easy portion of the schedule plays out.
Well, Tampa Bay opens Thursday night. They're getting points, and some people thinking, gee, what if Tom Brady was not Tom Brady? Would they bench him? Yeah, in Tampa Bay, they're playing horribly. But Pete, about this game for the Eagles and Steelers, what are your thoughts on this week?
My thoughts are it's a 10.5. Some places it's an 11-point spread. I think that's perfect. The Eagles have to show their dominance in this game. They have to put this game away quick. The game should be over by second half. I feel like the Eagles are 6-0, and we do think they're the best team in the NFC. But with some of these teams, they hang around and they make it close. So it kind of makes me a little reserved of how good the Eagles are. I know they're a really good team, but we need to show that we're 1A and the Steelers team is a rebuilding bottom of the league team, and we just need to dominate them. I just need to see a dominant performance on the defense, offense, special teams if we can, but I just need to see a dominant performance against a bad team, because that's what should happen here.
All right, the Steelers, by the way, when you look at them, they have covered 2 weeks in a row. They beat Tampa Bay as a 10.5-point dog. And then they did cover in Miami last week, losing 16-10, getting 7.5. So that's how you measure them. How many games are they going to cover? Kenny Pickett is a good-looking quarterback, not reading the defenses as well as he should all the time. So people, they're looking for interception totals. They're looking for possibly a defensive score. Maybe that's how some of the bettors will look at this game. The Steelers have a guy by the name of George Pickens, who's a good receiver. So there are some props that people will try to take out of the game besides the big spread as the Eagles try to go to 7-0. We'll talk more about the league in the third quarter. Third quarter of Why Eagles Why. The Eagles are so far ahead of the NFC East opponents, you might think, well, why even talk about them? But if the playoffs started now, the 5-2 Dallas Cowboys would be in. The 6-1 New York Giants would be in. This is a very, very good division. So, Bill, when you look around at these other teams, what initially comes to mind for you?
With the Giants, I am shocked that that they're 5-1, because I thought with the new coach, the new GM, And the fact that I didn't think Daniel Jones was a great quarterback. I thought they were another year or two away before they started contending. So my thought with the Giants is the Eagles aren't that far ahead of them. They're up right now 1 game, but the two teams haven't played each other. So those 2 late season games are going to be very, very interesting, depending on how both these teams, how the weeks leading up to those games play out. Dallas is always a thorn in our side. I hate those Cowboys, but you got to respect them because, they're the Dallas Cowboys. They're America's team.
I don't respect.
But, they're like the LA Lakers, very overrated. When was the last time they played in a Super Bowl, won a Super Bowl? You talk like they're this all-time great team.
1996. David Akers reminded them of that in the draft in 2018. That was so funny. He goes, by the way, the last time you were in the Super Bowl, these draft picks weren't born yet.
The Olympics were in the U.S. last time in the Super Bowl.
Yeah. So you've got the Eagles, you've got the 6-1 Giants, who are still ranked behind the Cowboys in terms of expectations and odds. To your point, Bill, that the Giants are still not believed in a lot of quarters. Pete, when you look at the Cowboys, what comes to mind for you?
Quickly on Bill's thing, the Giants. What scares me a little about the Giants is the Giants remind me of the 2 Giants teams that won the Super Bowls with Eli. Everybody kept doubting it. They weren't a great team. Eli didn't have really that great of seasons, but they just kept winning, finding ways to win. And that's what this Giants team kind of reminds me of. Like, I haven't thought about the Giants. I haven't thought about them because I'm like, okay, this week they're going to implode. No, this week they're going to implode. And I feel like that's what when they won their 2 Super Bowls, I think feels like the same way. They weren't a dominant team. They squeaked out wins. They got there. But as far as the Cowboys fans all week, man, they were like, wait till Dak comes back. Wait till Dak comes back. Dak came back, and yes, they won 24-6, but he didn't show us anything. If anything, he showed us that he wasn't ready to come back, or he just doesn't have it anymore. He looked really bad. The team looked bad. It just a Detroit Lions team that, yes, they only scored 6 points and they do score a lot, but the score shows a different story than when you watch the game. The Lions look like they played just like dominated on both sides, but I don't know how they lost 24-6, but it just didn't look good for the Cowboys. It makes you think that the Giants are better than the Cowboys, and the record shows that. I think we think about the Cowboys just because we can't stand the Cowboys and America's team. Everybody, the national media always talk about them. It makes me a little feel easier about the Eagles because watching that game, it just didn't look like a Cowboys team that had their quarterback back and that was ready to really roll these teams over. It just looked like a Cowboys team that was just stuck in the mud and beat a bad team accidentally.
Well, their defense did save them because Detroit was losing 10-6, and they got to the Dallas 1-yard line in the fourth quarter and fumbled. And that set up 4 turnovers in the fourth quarter, which gave you a misleading score about that game. And Bill, I want to toss back to you, and both of you guys can chime in on this because you're talking about the Giants finding a way to win. They were able to come up with a gang tackle on the 1-yard line last week on the final play to save the game against Jacksonville, which they won 23-17. And if you ever had to talk about a play that illustrates the point that both of you have made, all right, this is the year that they stopped the guy 1 yard away from the end zone. And that's what's been happening with them late in the game. They've been getting that yard.
Yeah, they're definitely playing with a chip on their shoulder. And you can tell the team has bought in. The players have bought in. Usually don't talk about the Giants being like a scrappy team. They usually just, they'll have a lot of money. They have a big quarterback, whatever. But this year is just different. And they look like they look like they might cause a little bit of trouble when we play them.
Yeah. And Bill, there are going to be 2 games against the Giants. And like you say, they are always intense and pretty ugly when the Eagles face the Giants.
They're so ugly that there's the games have names to them. You have Miracle at Meadowlands 1, Miracle at the Meadowlands 2. And I'm sure there's some others in there.
Kind of three of them now, right?
Yeah, and it's and there's always points in the game where you're like, why are they doing this? Why do they look like they're not prepared? And it's really on both teams. And I'm curious of this year because I feel like both teams are exceeding preseason expectations. If it's going to change the focus of the game, and just like it's not like a couple of years ago where you have losing teams battling for NFC East bragging rights. You have teams that are among the top records in the NFC right now, battling for not just the NFC East title, but for the home field advantage in the playoffs. So this is, granted, it's still extremely early in the season, so let's not get ahead of ourselves, but just you can't help think about it in the back of your head that because so many teams are performing below expectations right now, and so many veteran quarterbacks look like they should have retired, as opposed to keep playing. I'm talking about you, Aaron Rodgers, you, Tom Brady, and you, Matt Ryan.
And Russell Wilson.
Oh yeah, Russell Wilson.
Who's hurt right now.
Yeah, yep. I picked on him last week. I didn't want to
Probably
pick
the worst
on
of
him
them
again.
all. Yeah.
and Carson Wentz, your
Leave
time's
Carson
done
out
too.
of this. Leave Carson out of this. Okay.
I had to throw him in because I know your love for Carson.
Oh wow.
Hey, I have to question the GMs who knew all this and still signed these guys to big contracts. All I know is that I hope that when the end of my reign is up, that someone can think the same way about me and give me a multi-year contract. Well, we know your shot, so here's a lot of money.
Yeah.
We're looking at this. We can't believe what these guys have done or not done. But to wrap it, both of you guys, when the Eagles and Giants get together and they're both good, it's exciting. And we can't help but get ahead of ourselves a little bit in the media because the league puts these games at the end of the year with the division teams to create more excitement. And so we do look forward to it a lot right now. All right, more to come in the fourth quarter. Fourth quarter of Why Eagles Why. It's the wild card segment, and both of them concern some very important aspects about the Eagles. Bill, we come to you first, and this is a Gelman's gold for you.
Yes, it is. But before I jump into Gelman's gold, I just want to add a little asterisk into my last point that I made, that it's a shame to see Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady, and it's not just them; their teams are struggling, and it's just they're among the elite quarterbacks of all time, and you would hate to see these guys go out this way. Tom Brady drives me crazy because
I will never feel bad for Tom Brady.
But I respect what he's done on the field. I agree with you, Pete. I don't feel bad for Tom Brady, but at the same time, you got to respect what he's done.
Yeah.
But that brings me into another quarterback point that ties into Jalen Hurts. Believe it or not, this is my little Gelman's gold nugget for the week. Since 2000, according to some digging I did earlier, there have been 4 NFL quarterbacks that have started the season 6-0 and have had 12 plus touchdowns, along with 2 or fewer takeaways. Add Jalen Hurts' name to the list. He has 6 rushing touchdowns, 6 passing touchdowns, 2 interceptions so far this season. He joins Brett Favre from 2009, Peyton Manning from 2006, and some guy named Tom Brady from 2015.
That's a great stat. That is a great stat and quite a revelation about Jalen Hurts because he's really progressed very nicely. So I think he's making a lot of believers, Bill, out of people who thought that, well, he's not ready. And maybe people are starting to think, well, maybe he is ready.
Yeah, he is. Right. I mean, he's got finally has the weapons around him to succeed.
Pete, you've had some focus on Jonathan Gannon. They praised him when they've used the aggressive format, and you've been on him with the bend but don't break philosophy when that has happened. What a situation we've got this week, because Kenny Pickett, the Jersey guy, comes in, and Kenny Pickett, although he throws a lot of interceptions, he's a very good leader for Pittsburgh. What you're looking for with him is he sometimes throws a lot of deep balls into coverage, double, triple coverage, in which they can pick it. How do you think Jonathan Gannon is going to approach Kenny Pickett?
Well, I hope he approaches him as a young quarterback, puts pressure on him, doesn't let the secondary sit back and let him dink and dunk. Because as a young quarterback, if you sit back, that's the easiest thing for a young quarterback to do. They can dink and dunk all the way downfield. You already said that the Steelers do have a couple pretty good wide receivers that can get open if you give them enough time. So, yeah, I'm still not super confident in Jonathan Gannon being our defensive coordinator. I'm very confident in the talent we have on defense. I don't think Jonathan Gannon is using the talent like he should be, especially when it comes to the secondary, because you see when it comes down to these like second half of these games and the pressure's on and he has to make adjustments, he goes right back to the prevent style, bend but don't break defense, and that doesn't work. That's not going to win you a championship. That might win you a few games, but with a team like this that we're going against, he needs to put the pressure on. He needs to come up with a creative scheme that stops these guys, especially in the second half. If we're winning and they kind of just throw everything out the window and they go for broke, he needs to put together an aggressive style defense to give this team confidence, to give our fans confidence in Jonathan Gannon, because I still think when he gets kind of like overloaded with information or if the pressure's on, he always just reverts back to the prevent style. And I don't know. I hope that's not something. I hope it's a coincidence. I hope it's not just that he's over his head with his job. So that remains to be seen. But yeah, if we see Pickett going downfield and getting 250 plus 300 yards this game, even if we dominate, yeah, it's not going to make me very confident. My confidence is going to even go lower for Jonathan Gannon, because that shouldn't happen against this team. That we have far too much talent on defense. He's a young quarterback that they have far too little talent on offense as far as Pittsburgh, and we can't let that happen. We just have, like I said, in the first quarter, we have to put our feet on these guys' throats and just dominate them to show that we are the elite team in the NFL. Because there's a couple of games where we played bad teams where we should have dominated, and we let them kind of creep back in because of the Jonathan Gannon bend but don't break defense.
I'm going to throw this out to both of you. Here's another wild card. Okay, coming off of a bye, there are a couple different philosophies about whether a bye is good when you come out of that. Are you rusty? Is your timing a little bit off? Or are you more rested in how you're going to go about things? So, Pete, I'm going to throw this to you first in this part of the segment. The bye. Do you think the Eagles come out ready to roll? Or do you think they come out with maybe the timing a little off because they've been off for a week?
In the NFL with the bye, I think they should always come out on a roll. I mean, there's 17 games in the season. They should be prepared mentally for every game. Physically, they might be beat up. And a bye, I feel like, can never be a bad thing. Sometimes the stats show differently for certain teams, but it should never be a bad thing. And if it is a bad thing, then you got to look at your coaching and you got to look at the mentality of the players on your team. But it gives these football players a chance to rest. I mean, it's a rough game. It's an extra week. The bye, in my opinion, if I see a team come out rusty in football, other sports is different. In football, if a team's rusty after a bye, then you got to look at the mentality of the players and the coaching. They were unprepared.
All right, Bill, your thoughts coming out of the bye. Are they going to roll or are they going to be rusty?
Well, here's what's interesting. Normally this time of year, the Eagles are the spotlight, the only team people are talking about. This is the week where they're going to be under the radar because World Series is going to be taking place. Well, actually, there is no World Series game on Sunday, but the Phillies go 1-1 in Houston or 2-0 in Houston. Everyone's going to have their mind set on the Phillies. But the Eagles have traditionally been, at least in recent seasons, have been strong out of the bye week. I don't see any reason why they would not perform well this week for the sheer reason they're 6-0. Why would you take a week off and then suddenly start stinking up the joint. They're at home. There's something special in the Philly air right now with the teams, and you just gotta. I think that the bye week actually helped them, so they could actually take time to say, okay, we're 6-0. What's not working? What can we do better? And one thing I'm going to be looking forward to see if they spread that scoring around a little bit. Let's not score all our points in the second quarter. Let's see if they get off to an early start in the first quarter and maybe add a couple touchdowns in the second half. So it's not like, they go up like 20 points or 14 points in the second quarter. So that's what, hopefully they used it to the extra time to just, take a closer look at what's working, what's not working, what we can do better. And we'll see how it plays out on Sunday at 1:00.
All right. Next segment, our overtime views. It's overtime on Why Eagles Why. And we'll go around the horn a little bit. The guys have their own particular things they'd like to throw in there at the end. How about a Pete's pick?
Yeah, we're going to bring back Pete's pick for this week. I took a couple weeks off. You got to put some respect on the Jets name, okay? Because you gave them some respect last week against the Broncos. I think they're a favorite in that game. But this week they come in, they're home against an awful Patriots team, and they're a 1.5 underdog. I don't get it. Patriots don't even know who's playing quarterback next week. The Jets aren't winning these games by luck. They actually rebuilt this team with a lot of good draft picks. I mean, they're a solid team, and I'll take that 1.5 all day. I mean, I think the Jets win this game. Again, maybe if it was in New England, it would be a little different, but it's in New York. The Jets fans are excited right now for this team. It's the first time they can be excited for a Jets team since before I was even born. Probably. I don't remember Jets being ever, except maybe Tebow. Tebow played. I think he played for him, right? Yeah, or Sanchez too. The butt fumble. But
yeah, that's right. They have not been good in a long time.
Yeah, put some respect on this Jets team. I crushed the Jets for years, but now I'm finally coming around, and I think they're going to. I think they're going to finish above 500 this year anyway.
And to your point, Pete, Johnny Avello of DraftKings this week said even though the Giants are 6-1 and the Jets are 5-2, he thinks the Jets are a better team than the Giants. And those who are following closely will keep a good look at Breece Hall, that great Jets running back who was hurt against the Broncos and may be out for the rest of the season or a long time at least. So we're excited about that game, and it is a good game. But we ought to also check in with Mayor Gelman.
Yes, I'm declaring this Houston week for the sheer reason that I never thought we would be saying this or talking about this at this point in the season. But if you look at the MLB schedule and the NFL schedule, it's amazing how it coincides. But Friday and Saturday, the Phillies are playing in Houston, and if the Phillies take one of those two games, like they did against San Diego, like they did against Atlanta, it'll get very, very interesting when the World Series comes to Philly. So you have Sunday's an off day for the Eagles to play the Steelers. And then you have potentially 3 games in Philly, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And then on Thursday Night Football, the Eagles are playing the Texans in Houston. They're already a 9-point favorite. And then the Phillies, if a game 6 and 7 are necessary, they would come back to Houston. So there's going to be a lot of Philadelphians, Pennsylvanians, Phillies fans, Eagles fans camping out in Houston, I have a feeling, over the next week plus. So we'll see how that it might even be a home game for Philadelphia. Who knows?
All right. So Pete's picks have spoken regarding the Jets, and Mayor Gelman has declared Houston week. It is a great time to be a Philly sports fan between the two teams, and we're excited all the way around. Thank you for joining us on Why Eagles Why. Please remember to hit like and subscribe to be notified about future videos. And this is Dave Bontempo, Pete Amato, and Bill Gelman saying we'll check back with you next week.